Hi, I'm Tom Muñoz, and here on our next episode of Vendor Voices, we have Tia from the Boca Raton, and we're super happy to have you here. How long have we known each other?
Oh gosh, well thank you for having me, Tom. It's really nice to be here. We have probably known each other for almost 15 years now. I know, it's been a really long time, but It's been a wonderful relationship that we have. So again, thanks for having me. And
it's an honor, and you haven't been with the resort for 15 years, so I definitely remember doing a lot of really great events at other venues.
I'm very proud of where I started at the Breakers in Palm Beach. That's where my career started. And then from there, I've been at various venues, but now I'm the Assistant Director of Catering at the Boca Raton and have been there for 3 years now. I worked there for a year previously, but we've undergone some amazing renovations, so I'm super excited to be back and couldn't ask to be at a better venue in South Florida.
So you actually answered the first question is, what's your role at the resort? But the second part of the question is what should clients expect from having you at their event?
So one of the things that is great about our property, number one, the iconic historic nature of it is having that as the backdrop of your wedding, coupled with the full service that we provide from the sales experience all the way through to the service through your day of event. You are with your planner, which would be me or any of my catering team from start to finish. So it is a full service experience, and we customize and provide everything for you and are there for everything from your rooms to your spa reservations to every detail of your menu preparation, timelines, vendor contacts and contracts. So we provide a full service.
Can you give us a little bit of history about the Boca Raton and why it has been such, an iconic venue for people to vacation and have events at for a very long time?
Yes. So actually in 2026 will be our centennial birthday of 100 years. So expect a lot of fun, exciting events at the Boca Raton and parties. But we were built in 1926 by Addison Meisner. He cultivated and developed much of Boca Raton. With that being said, the most iconic property that he developed is the Boca Raton that we have today. Started as the Boca Raton Inn back in 1926 with
I didn't know that.
Yeah, with 120 rooms only. We are now upwards of 900 rooms on over 220 acres with our 5 distinct hotels that encompass our brand. So with that, we have options, we have wonderful history, we have beautiful scenery, we have intercoastal Atlantic Ocean views, a little bit of something for everybody, but really everything to encompass that full, amazing weekend resort experience for your guests.
As far as a backdrop goes, our entire team looks at the Boca Resort as one of the best locations to photograph a bride and groom pretty much in the country, or internationally for that matter. We have more awards at the Boca Resort from images than any other venue we've ever photographed at. It's definitely a great spot for photos. How at the Boca Resort do you guys create like a customized experience for the bride and grooms to really execute like what their vision is for the day? Not having like that cookie cutter, this is how weddings are. Every event is unique. And it's like, how do you guys do that internally?
Well, so there's 2 things, first of all. Number one, that's my job, and that's my favorite thing to do. I don't have a job, or I'm not good at my job, if I don't find out what my couple's vision is. That is the most important thing that we do to make sure that their experience is unique, just like you said. And then number 2 is like the fact finding, right? How did you guys meet? Where did you meet? What's important to you as a couple? Where's your favorite place? And you say, where your favorite place? Well, is your favorite place Italy? Well, that's important because then maybe we can curate part of your wedding to have that Italian menu theme, to feel like we're on the Amalfi Coast because we have sort of that Mediterranean architecture.
Right.
Whatever that is for that couple, we'll have people that met in Philadelphia and I'm like, we're doing cheesesteaks late night. They're like, we are? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, we love that. So it's sort of about fact finding, and then it's also about listening. First and foremost, I ask my brides all the time, a lot of people will be like, oh, we're going to do your ceremony out here on our harborside lawn, which is beautiful overlooking the water. Well, did you ask her first, does she want to be outside?
Right.
Sometimes brides are worried about their hair and makeup, and they're hot and they're sweaty.
What do you
No
mean?
offense. I know.
It gets hot in Florida?
It gets a little warm here.
No.
And so sometimes people are like, I really actually would rather have my ceremony indoors.
Right.
So let's do that first. Let's, it's not cookie cutter. It's not boom, boom, boom. It's listening, fact finding, and finding out about who your people are that are willing to spend the rest of their lives together, and then pulling out all those little details from both sides of their families and from them as a couple that are going to make it special for them.
Something that I've witnessed is super unique is the Boca Raton has different spaces for different events, and those different spaces have different feelings as well. If you're wanting something to have that old world look, you have the cathedral ballroom, which, it's absolutely gorgeous. But then you also have the beach club size, where I've seen some like really modern, cool parties. So, I think it's pretty cool to have a venue that just doesn't have one look or one style. You mentioned that you have several properties amongst the properties. How do you guys kind of distinguish between which, where you're going to use and what you're going to do?
So again, that's sort of the fact-finding mission, but I'm really glad that you brought up the beach club because our beach club is undergoing a $100 million renovation. We are scheduled to reopen December of this year in 2024. So we are very excited to sort of unveil that new venue there, and it is.
Well, if you need some photos, we can
absolutely stunning. I know you can, and you are welcome as soon as we can take those hard hats off.
Awesome.
But we have a brand new venue there, so that's really exciting. And what's fun about that is, anymore, and as you know, it is not just the wedding day anymore. It is the wedding weekend. So my sort of favorite way to bring your guests to Florida is to say, let's do our welcome party at the beach. Little more casual, come as you are, do sort of a fun, funky Floridian menu, have everybody mix and mingle because, both sides may not know each other.
Right.
So you're at the beach. Then you can sort of come to the harbor side for your, formal cathedral, put on that tux, put on, your black tie gowns, and it's a little bit more formal. So we have sort of all of the components to make your weekend this fun, full experience. And then each other little venue can be weddings as well.
Right.
So we're very excited about the reopening of the beach club, and then all of the ways that we can put together just the perfect weekend for our couples.
You mentioned the different ballroom spaces. There are not a lot of venues, right, that can accommodate also the size of events that you're able to do. Right. And I think that's something that's really important, especially for people that are, wanting to do a really big event and they don't want their guests to have to be traveling all over the place for the weekend of events. What's the max number of people that you guys can accommodate for a party?
So we can do weddings anywhere from the size of 50 to 800. So our grand ballroom in our Meisner Center is our largest ballroom at 26,000 square feet.
That's big.
Yes, and we have a lawn, the grand lawn that is associated with that space, as well as the grand assembly, and your 26,000 square foot ballroom. So that space is for those unique weddings that are, of that size. In that same Meisner Center, we also have our Royal Palm Ballroom, which is 15,000 square feet. And that is probably our most popular wedding space for that number that's around over 250 to maybe 400.
Gotcha.
Because that's sort of the next, category. If you're not that 150 to 225,
right.
You kind of bump up to that 250 to, 300 or 400. And that's the space that's normally used for them. Yep. However, if you have 800 friends, I don't know who does, but bring them on in, we can handle it.
We haven't done very many 800 persons wedding, but we had an event this past year that had about 750 guests. And the irony is they wanted to have it in Miami and they couldn't find a venue. They could not find a venue. So they literally had to build the venue at a park to accommodate that many people. So, if you're going to be, anywhere in the Boca Raton or that Palm Beach area, there really isn't very many places that can actually do that.
No, there's not. And we also have the hotel infrastructure to handle it. With our 12 dining restaurants on property, all of the amenities that we offer, and our 900 hotel rooms, we can also host all of those people for different events in different locations. When you mention the word build anything, you can just hear cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And that's sort of where there's, very few hotel properties that can accommodate that size, because when you start talking building tent structures and bringing in restrooms and building kitchens and, it's a whole...
generators.
And all of the things that go into it. That could be a whole nother talk on itself.
Yes, it can.
But you sort of know that just brings a whole nother level of complication, but it's something that we can accommodate.
What would be your advice to couples to get the most out of their experience by having a wedding at the Boca Raton?
My advice to couples. Oh gosh, I have a lot of advice for couples.
All right, well, give it to me.
All right. But specifically about our property. Once you are there, you're home. So that's not really advice, but you don't have to worry anymore. We do require a wedding planner, and I know that you will be a proponent of that as well, because they will do all of the, external details. But once you're on our property, you're home and your family. We are taking care of you from start to finish. You have your rehearsal dinner, you have your wedding, you have your brunch, you have your pickleball tournament, you have the girls go to our 5-star Spa Palmera, for the day before. We have our Truman's Gentlemen's, because we know that the gentlemen once in a while don't come fully prepared. So we take them there, get them, a little straight shave, get them a little touched up. But we have all the fun things to make it a weekend experience. We have our beautiful Harborside Pool Club with adult cabanas. If you have kids, we have family cabanas too. So lazy rivers, water slides, all the things, without trying to sell the property too much. You have everything that you want there, and don't have to worry. The other thing that I would say to couples, on top of just hiring the right vendor team, is do what feels right to you. And this has nothing to do with the Boca Raton or anything, but when like I said, if you walk in there and the vibe isn't right for you, and you went to the Edition in Miami, totally different vibes, but you felt the connection there, that's where you should be.
Right.
You should spend the most important day saying the most important things to your most important person, where you feel at home, loved and cared for, safe and happy.
What kind of mistakes do you see couples make that you can provide some advice on things to avoid?
Number one is sort of getting in over your head before you know what you're getting into.
Oh, explain.
And by that, I mean you can fall in love with a property and then sort of not realize maybe the budget restraints that you might have getting into a luxury wedding market. Once you sort of step into the realm of luxury, everything has to match that. Your entire vendor team has to match that. Your planner has to match that. So it's sort of like going to Kleinfeld and trying on that $40,000 dress. You're not buying shoes from Sears, if Sears still exists.
I don't think
your shoes need to match the $40,000
Right.
dress. Your veil needs to match the $40,000 dress. Your accessories need to complete the luxury look. That needs to be said for your full wedding experience when you enter the luxury market. Now, that's not to be said that our budget is not for everybody, but that's where a planner is so important and so crucial, because they can help you develop your budget. And what I tell couples is that there's your top three and that there's your bottom three. Your top three are the things that are most important to you. That takes the education of a planner sometimes to help, couples along in their journey to figure out what that is. For me, photography is one of the most important, because those memories will be with me forever.
So, if I was going to kind of wrap up what you said, is if you're going to be planning a luxury wedding, don't put any components in that wedding that isn't luxurious.
Correct.
Because when you are planning a luxury wedding, those things stand out so much, right? And I think that's really, really great advice.
Exactly. And the other thing that I would definitely mention about, curtailing on photo and all of that, but is video. People a lot of times will skip on the video component. Oh, we don't need a video.
Right.
We don't need a video. When you're in the moment as a bride, a groom, a parent, you are so caught up in the day of that and I've seen it time and time again where it feels like a whirlwind where you almost don't remember. And it's not because you're blackout drunk.
Right.
It's because there's just so much for you to take in that you can't focus on your dad's speech. And 20 years from now, when dad is no longer around, you want to be able to watch him and capture what he said to you, or to watch your first dance together. And yes, it can be a photo, but video is also so important to sort of see the live, moment of it. And that's said for any speech, best man, maid of honor, funny things that happen with the cake, blooper moments that video people can, put in of, oh my gosh, do you remember when I was hysterically crying because we had to make the rain backup, call, and it got captured on video and they put in, a little blooper at the end? How silly was that? Those memories are so important.
What are some of the new trends and things that you're seeing now versus like what we've seen in the past?
Ooh, trends is always tricky. One of the trends that I am definitely promoting in a way is smaller, more intimate weddings. And when I say smaller, I don't mean micro 25-person weddings, but I mean having the people there that you really want there. And for most people on two sides of the family, that's going to be around that like 150 number. There is no need to have Aunt Sally there who you haven't spoken to in 10 years if she's not a part of your life anymore. Now, it may be important to your family, but make your wedding about you. There's so many times where people, have these weddings that are, of such a massive scale, and, they say, I didn't even get to say hi to some of these people, or I didn't know who they were.
Right.
That's not, to me, about celebrating love. It might be for other people, but I think it's important to be intimate. A fun trend that I'm seeing that's coming back, and some people may or may not agree with me, are old school wedding cakes. And when I say old school wedding cakes, think like New York, Italian bakery.
Fountains.
Yep. Yeah, fountains and things like that. I think it'll be a short-lived trend again, but right now I'm feeling it. And I think it's fun. I think it's old school. I think if it fits into your family dynamic and, sort of who you are, being in Boca, most of our couples are from New York. So they have some sort of tie. They either live in Manhattan or, grew up in Long Island or something, along those lines. And I think sort of, those sort of old world wedding traditions, for them to come back a little bit we're starting to see, and I'm okay with it. Minus the bouquet toss, that's totally out. Another trend that I'm sort of loving seeing is people still using more color. That's, sort of started a little bit, but I'm hoping that trend continues because, again, you can have a beautiful classic, all white, little bit of greenery wedding, but pushing that, envelope of those, jewel tones and magentas and, rich emeralds and being a little bit more out of the box of, sort of just it's a great day for a white wedding. Makes your wedding stand out, but you can still do it in ways that will stand the test of time and be classic.
I love colorful weddings. And, you kind of mentioned like the lighting as well. When you tie in the colors and then by just changing the colors of the lights that are hitting the columns and hitting the ceilings, it can transform a room to look like something completely different.
I think the number one thing is that when you come and see us, if you feel that that's the right place for your wedding, it won't just be your wedding. It will be a lifetime of memories that get to come after that. So obviously, if you transport yourself, let's say, to Italy, and have a wedding, you can't go to Italy every other month if you want to, but you can always fly to South Florida really easily, depending on where you live. And you will create memories there for the rest of your lives, from when you maybe start having kids, or you start having anniversaries, or you want to do vow renewals, or you're having a 50th birthday. It becomes a place for not just your wedding forever, but for your forever.
I love that. The Boca Raton has a lot of the same values that we have here at Muñoz Photography, right? We don't just want to do your wedding. After your wedding, we want to do your baby pictures and your christening, and your company needs a commercial rebrand. We can do that too.
Yeah, you have a smash cake from a baby shower, or baby photo you just did before I
It's
got
red velvet.
here.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You can
I was like, I don't want it on me.
So, is it rude to have a B list of guests that you invite if maybe you didn't get all of the RSVPs or the A-list guests that you've invited originally?
No. Have you ever seen Bridesmaids and Groomsmen? You have to rank them too. Best friend, least favorite friend. Nobody needs to know, but you've already committed to spending that money, so you might as well have people there that you would want there should somebody not be able to come.
Is it rude or inappropriate to invite an ex to a wedding?
Yes. You've had sex with that person.
Well, I didn't.
Well, not you. Well, I don't know. Maybe you have, Tom. You never know. However, yes, if you've had sex with anybody in the room, they shouldn't be there.
Got it. Okay, good to know. But that only counts for the bride and groom. The photographer doesn't matter, right?
The photographer doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay, good. So how do you feel about families splitting weddings 50-50, even if one of the families is significantly wealthier than the other?
I don't have feelings about it because they're not my families. That is up to everybody's each and own family dynamic, and they have to work that out. Unfortunately, that is sort of one area I can't give great advice about, because it depends on who is willing to do what for the wedding. Sometimes, the other side of the family might want to split it 50-50 regardless of the other family's finances. It also isn't okay for the other family to say, we're not contributing if the other family happens to, be fiscally, much more stable or responsible. That is sort of an all individual thing depending on the family and who's willing to do what. And it is a tricky thing that does have to be navigated, but it can get messy. There is no wrong or right answer, and it's up to each and every sort of situation. What I would always love to see happen is if people are in the situation to sort of split things evenly. That's sort of like the world we're living in now. What I'm seeing a lot more often is that if the bride's family is taking care of the wedding, then groom's family is maybe doing rehearsal and brunch, because the combination of the two at this point can almost be very close to the wedding costs. Right. So that's sort of a perfect world. Is it perfect? Are families perfect? Are 4 divorced parents on either side ever easy? No. And it happens all the time. So family dynamics are tricky, but you just have to sort of navigate it through. And what I would tell couples is to not let it affect your wedding and your day. Do the very best you can to surround yourself with the supportive families that you can, and don't let finances do anything to strain what's supposed to be a special day for you.
Great advice. So Tia, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Vendor Voices.
My pleasure. It was amazing being here. Thank you for having me.
All right. And we will see you on the next episode of Vendor Voices.